Hello, and welcome to the first episode of what I'd like to call Inside Martin. This is going to be a test episode of the concept, and hopefully it will wind up working out the way that I hope it will. So in this show, I will be going over the various Martin comics that I've created, explaining what was going through my head at the time, and possibly explaining like different things that I was thinking. And yeah, let's sort of see how it goes. Again, this is a pilot episode. Please let me know any ways you think I might be able to improve on this idea. But yeah. So this first comic right here, you might think, hey, this isn't actually a comic, it's just an illustration. And you'd be right. This comic, if you look right here in the corner, is actually drawn on paper. If you've seen any of my other comics, they were drawn digitally. So this is the first of what I believe to be 7 of the original Martin comics that I drew on little scraps of paper that I had at work back when I worked at Best Buy, and I drew these on a break. I usually doodle a lot. In fact, for years, even when I was in college, I tried to make, or at least try to find a design of a dog that I could draw like regularly and using like a comic strip. But I never was able to come up with one. Now, this drawing in particular, combined with like the name down here, actually inspired me to start drawing more regularly. So as you can see, sorry, I was just making sure that was recording. The big thing about this that really inspired me to want to draw the comic and really stuck out to me in particular were the eyelashes. The reason why is because I used to have a video series. I called it The Blassie Show, and one of the big things I did with that is I made a big deal when people said, "Oh, Blassie's a boy," but at the time, I was really like frustrated that people didn't realize that Blassie was a girl. But over time, I kind of realized that was a silly thing to be upset about. So, I liked how there was kind of like this subversion of that old idea. Since Martin has eyelashes and also his name being Martin, he has what would normally be associated as a feminine feature, but you can still tell that he's a boy. And I like the idea that I was kind of like stepping outside of my comfort zone when I was creating this initial drawing. I do have some older drawings. I might not show them here. Again, this is just a test thing. If I can manage to edit this quickly and then put it in there, I might do so. But I will also point out that this thing right here, it might look, I am fully aware that Martin's eyes combined with his snout does look a little bit phallic, and that his ear at times, this little white thing, it will turn pink once the comic goes into color, also look a little bit phallic. I'm fully aware that you don't need to tell me, but this right here, I do consider to be Martin number 1. So let's move on. This next one is the first true Martin comic. I guess we don't really have that much to say about it, but it does show Martin looking forward. This actually isn't something that I do very often. It's kind of surprising that I don't actually do this angle very often in the comic nowadays. But yeah, the joke is just that it's probably the most basic puppy joke you could possibly make. Um, yeah, it's pretty basic, but I guess in a way it does still make me laugh. I think at the time people were like, "It looks like he's farting," and oh boy, uh, there's nothing wrong with that. Even when you look at like more contemporary Martin comics, because he is always farting. Moving on. This one, it looks a little darker. I took a picture of all these like original ones that were done on paper. Um, uh, but this one, I guess I didn't edit later on to just make it a little bit more brighter and more consistent. I do still have all of these original uh, papers, by the way. But yeah, I threw this together pretty quickly on the aforementioned. At least I believe I mentioned them in this particular take of the uh, just scraps of paper I had at work at the time. Now, do notice that there are a couple of things that are kind of weird here. First of all, he doesn't have any eyelashes, even though I just went on about the eyelashes. But also, in the last panel, pretty major mistake. He's not wearing his wizard hat. What happened to his wizard hat? That's absurd. Oh my goodness. I guess I'm gonna be finding a lot of like little mistakes like that. Also notice his weird proportions and stuff in this last panel are kind of weird. So this is the first appearance of this character right here is in fact Martin's owner. I'll go more into the idea behind Martin's owner because really at this time he's just a person who's there. He didn't really have as much of a personality um, as Martin. This comic in particular um, was uh, was changed a little bit after the fact. So originally, this panel didn't have any dialogue whatsoever. All that happened, all you could see was Martin just kind of looking flabbergasted, which in some ways I regret. Obviously, this is done on paper, so the original edit can't be seen. I do think that later on I might have did a bit where I uh, erased this and called it a director's cut or something like that. Also, some people don't think this one makes much sense. um, Also, Martin's really, really big in this last panel right here. I don't know what that's all about, but I don't know. I was still learning how to make comics at the time, so don't judge too harshly. This next one. So I first got Martin, like the actual dog. He got into trash like a lot of the time, and he's looking at me right now like he's ashamed. Um, and this kind of like exemplified it. In the early days of the comic, there are a lot of jokes about him getting into the trash, but now that he's older, he doesn't get into trash nearly as often. But this is one of the first comics I did that had like actual like action going on, and I think I did a pretty good job in doing this. Obviously, Martin's like proportions and stuff still haven't been fully worked out, but it still works pretty good. Next, I might chuckle at some of these a little bit. This one's actually pretty funny. Um, you can see that I kind of already started to see some of the issues of drawing on paper, like up here. Um, there really wasn't a way to draw the paintbrush I wanted to, and I couldn't really go over like mistakes and stuff like that all that well. A weird thing is that in this, and normally I don't do this anymore, is that when Martin closes his eyes, his eyelashes still appear. Maybe I should start doing that again. I do kind of like how that looks, but normally he doesn't have eyelashes when he it's pretty funny comic really. He doesn't have eyelashes when his eyes are closed, which is an intentional design choice. Now you might notice something about the ears that's going on. That does get addressed here shortly. And then I do believe that this is the last one that was part of that original batch of comics that I drew at work that one day. Um, and it's the last one that was drawn on paper originally. There are a couple more that I drew on like various other materials. I think at least two. I don't remember if there's more than that, but we'll get to those hopefully if this winds up working out. This is a pretty basic dog joke. Weird thing is that I have like this crowd that's just like these stick figures. I don't really do stick figures all that often, but sometimes I do give people like stick limbs and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty basic comic. It's a pretty basic joke. I wouldn't say that it's particularly like hilarious or anything, but yeah. So this is the first one that I did on drew on my iPad. I do believe that I just had kind of like a nub pencil at the time. I didn't actually have like an Apple Pencil. It wouldn't be too long until I bought like an Apple Pencil. But this one introduces Mr. Butterfly. Um, he didn't like stick around too much, but there's a reason behind that. But we'll get to it. I think again this one's pretty funny. I know they say you shouldn't laugh at your own jokes, but I think that this one is a pretty good joke. Um, Moving on. This was one that I didn't date them at the time, but you can see July 3rd is when I had originally exported this document after I drew it. This is the first appearance of, I would call this a much more canonical first appearance of Martin Zoner because he actually has like the beard like I do, but doesn't have the single hair on his forehead. I don't remember exactly when that came up, but I'm pretty sure it was a little later. Now, again, I know I just said that he is designed after me, but he is a little bit different than me in terms of like his personality. Also note that the other humans actually do look a little bit more realistic compared to that. This isn't based on anybody in particular, but this guy does appear in a later comic much further down the line as a gag. um, but yeah, this is a good comic. I always liked these Explore Martin comics. I thought they were really fun idea, and I'm always trying to think of like new ones. Um, uh, it's one thing that always gets me stuck is that whenever he says, usually at least, I don't. This one I guess isn't really as much an example, but in the first panel he'll say hello or something that's kind of close to hello, but it won't be appropriate to where he is at the time. Um, but I guess like Fountain of Youth is considered, at least to my knowledge, I think it's considered a more Hispanic myth that so it's having him speak a sort of like thing that's similar to Spanish. He's just saying buenos, which just means good. But I thought it was funny. It's kind of an obscure joke. You kind of have to like know me because I used to say that like all the time. Um, uh, in terms of like buenos dias, I just say buenos, and everyone just look at me like I'm crazy. I personally think that's pretty funny. Again, so the proportions of Martin haven't quite been figured out yet. Don't really see rooms like the bathroom all that often. I was a little bit more ambitious in backgrounds back in the day when I didn't have to color them in, but coloring them in, and like because you have to nowadays when I color them, you have to have everything have a solid outline. It's a little bit more difficult. If I'm drawing these once a day, I don't often do as much background detail. It just winds up feeling a little bit um, ex extraneous. But also, I do want to point out in this last panel, um, it says Martin. This is kind of like the reason behind the title and why there's an exclamation point there. Probably would have been better if the title had 3 exclamation points. Thinking about it now, but it's supposed to be Martin's owner like yelling at him and trying to tell him to get out of like the trash or something like that because he's being naughty. Not not quite as sensical when you look at it from a like a more modern perspective where it's a lot better behaved, but I think it is kind of like I think the title did wind up still working because it just kind of gives a feeling of excitement nowadays compared to what it did before. This is a good gag, and it establishes one of Martin's ongoing character traits. So this is a running gag that I did, at least a lot in the early days of the comic, regarding Martin's great uncle Jack. So great uncle, I think that the idea was that he was a Jack Russell. It's weird because Martin, it's one of the few hints that about Martin's actual family. Now I'm kind of like exploring like his brothers and sisters, but it's a little odd that he knows who his Uncle Jack is, or like I guess he doesn't even know who his Uncle Jack is at all. This is a good joke, especially when he says that gee, it makes me sad that someone wasted their time writing a letter to an illiterate dog. How does he know that it's his letter? I guess his owner gave it to him or something. But yeah, this is the first comic that establishes Martin as being illiterate, which was something that in the comics I did, like test comics and like various other things, like the ideas that I had, and especially like the Blossy Show, which was a video series I made about one of my previous dogs. That one of the gags was that they were illiterate and can't read, which does offer a lot of room for jokes in Martin. This is a bit a bit that kind of discusses and asks why Martin has big eyelashes like that, which I discussed earlier. I guess it's canon that he uses mascara, or maybe he doesn't. He just eats it. I don't know. I do really like this drawing right here of Martin. It's a pretty good drawing. I wish I could have done drawings as good as that. Pretty good comic. Again, some really good drawings, especially like this one in here where Martin is excited about getting fixed. We can see how long and how old Martin was a little bit before I started drawing the comic. So this was the 17th of I started putting the dates. I don't know if I put a date. Yeah, this is the first one that actually has a date on it, and I also signed it here too. But there's no border yet. That won't happen for quite a bit more time. But Martin's barking. You can hear the real dog. I guess it's appropriate that he made an appearance. I do like him saying "hold the phone." I think that's a reference to Shrek because he's like, hold, because Shrek says hold the phone. But yeah, I did want to make it like a bit of a storyline, which will appear that Martin will be getting fixed. Which Martin, stop barking, bud. I'm recording this thing. Stop it. I also noticed that Martin has a collar in here. Early days, I did try to give him a collar. I guess in none of these older ones, he has one, but I was very bad at missing it. I'll try to point it out if I notice it, but what's one of the reasons he doesn't have a collar in these later on is because it's really easy to forget to give him a collar, no matter how hard I tried. Um, the Adventures of Super Martin. Nothing can stop me. So, he uses his mighty super bark. Bark, Martin. Stop that. Stop barking at nothing. Curses, you may have won this time, nothing. But one day I will have my revenge. So this is funny because right now Martin is barking literally that barking that you heard. He is not barking at anything in particular. Um, uh, See, thank you, Martin. You're really proving my point that this is one thing that he still does. Now, Super Martin hasn't really appeared in any of the comic. There was another superhero storyline that I did later on down the line. But I might point out kind of obvious jokes, but him saying nothing can stop me is that literally nothing can stop him. Because but I think that later on I did bring back the concept of nothing as like a villain in the comic, or maybe that's something that I might do if I haven't yet. I don't actually remember. I've done like over 1,000 of these things, so it's hard to remember what all I've done and haven't done. Martin gets into cat food when he goes to my grandmother's house. Um, some of these might actually be out of order in terms of like the date, but all the comics are in this particular thing. So because I drew them and then published them in like different orders, I'm not too concerned about making sure they're in perfect order. But yeah, when he goes to my grandmother's house, he did get into um, cat food a lot, and this is kind of me kind of getting at his case. Why I don't understand why his owner has cat food exactly. He doesn't have a cat yet. I guess maybe they went to visit like a friend or something, but I guess Martin's owner doesn't have friend. This is such a confusing comic. But again, early days, I guess the canon isn't that well established. Also, notice that the hands aren't those little mitten hands that would come down the line later. Um, uh, yeah, this is just a pretty basic joke. Um, uh, this is something that Martin still tends to do. I like the be a beautiful morning. He says, the smell posies. I don't remember what it was, but there was some movie or TV show where a character says the word posies, and they're like, "I picked you some posies," and I always loved how that sounded. So Martin, okay, you can bark all you want, um, at nothing. Um, uh, and I think that it's really fun thing to say. He's also has a leash on. I don't remember or even think that Martin ever has a leash in any other comic. He's just kind of like free to do whatever he wants. He does have a leash in real life, and he wears a harness rather than going around his collar like that. Um, but yeah, this one actually, people actually really liked it because it was so relatable, especially the way that Martin's owner looks. I don't even own flip flops, and I don't know why his is really like bony knees. He's very very clearly very tired though, um, But again, one of the reasons why I'm not him because I don't own flip flops or sandals or whatever. Okay, so this is the start of one of the first storylines I did, where Martin goes flying. Um, I hadn't really um, figured out how to do storylines at all, so this is kind of just like a test thing that I was doing. Um, so just to point out some things, so Martin decides to become an aviator. He's standing on his soapbox that he stood on in the fireworks comic that I did earlier on. He has an airplane. I think that one of the reasons I did this is because someone suggested to me that one thing that I could do is become an aviator or a pilot or something. So I decided to go with that. He says Auf Wiener Song, which is supposed to be him saying Auf Wiedersehen, which is like goodbye in German. Also, his owner has a cell phone here, so he's because he thinks Martin looks cute in his little aviator outfit. So he's flying over the ocean, and then he says, "I forgot doggy food. How will Martin get out of this one?" You can also see Martin's owner taking a photo of Martin taking off there as well. I also tried to do some like motion right here with the propeller. I think I actually wound up looking pretty good here. So he has 0 doggy food. So he loses his scarf. So one thing that I tried to make sure is that he I don't know. I just wanted to add the detail that he lost his scarf. That's pretty much the reason that I did that. A very ambitious angle right here. I don't do anything like this really anymore. Wait, I don't remember this at all. He says, "Oh wait, there was doggy food in the car hold." Uh-oh, it looks like he's really on doggy food now. Oh dear. Oh goodness. I guess this kind of jumps. I guess I didn't really have these in order at all. This was one that a lot of people really liked. Really surreal comic that's very somber. I don't remember exactly why I did this one. Also, I used a different a pencil. Here. It was just for the clouds. I don't typically do anything except for similar solid pen, which is I'm liking looking back on these and seeing like ideas that I used to do that didn't really get fleshed out all that much. But I think this actually looks pretty cool. I might think about using like a different tool instead of just like the one solid pencil that I use nowadays. But yeah, this is an example of a sweet somber one. I don't do those too often anymore. Absolutely positively 0 doggy food at all. And like you can see, that's his mask that he took off. Going on like the SS Smelly. He can't read, otherwise he would have known that it's a garbage barge. Which is one of the subtle things there. I try to make it so that if Martin has to read something, there's someone to tell him that in case it's important to the story, so it doesn't break the rule of him having to be able to read. I do like his expression right here. That is a pretty good one. Doesn't have to say anything to get that to come off. So as I got closer to the end of the storyline, I didn't really know how to finish it. Unfortunately, I did wind up resorting to the whole it was all just a dream thing, um, which you can see at the end there. I did manage to squeeze in the phrase poop deck, um, and I gave him, he did find his scarf and he did find his goggles, which are these right here. Um, and it's saying the opening thing here. He did lose his scarf, goggles, and airplane, but he got them back. Yay! But yeah, that's it. Would turned out it was all about him not wanting to get in, like trying to explain why he got in the trash and why he got dirty. So this is an idea that I had kind of early on, Super Martio, over um 1,250 comics later. I revisited this idea, but I do like how this original one came out. Because I like how Martin sounds like Mario, and stuff like that. I did, uh, I think I did a pretty good job with like making him look like a pixel character. Um, Also, I did apparently at the time I did not copy and paste him, even though it kind of looks like it. They are a little bit different. Early on days of Martin, I did copy and paste quite a bit, and I'll try to point that out when I come across it. But I don't think there was any that was done yet. But yeah, pretty basic joke. This is the first of like a series of like parody comics that I did. I think there's a couple here in a row, if unless these are out of order, which you've seen. They are. This is one where I apparently parodied different styles of anime. I'm not really, not even really a fan of anime, but I did decide that if I was going to do Martin in different art styles, I was going to. I will point out some different things. So I did ask someone to look at the various Japanese characters, and I believe that that's all actually like correct in what they say. Um, there's this. This is kind of supposed to be like. I think I don't recall. I think this is supposed to be like Dragon Ball Z. It's like supposed to be like sumo. It's supposed to be like ancient Japan, and then this is just like a cuddly like anime character like Pikachu. I don't know. One thing I do want to point out about this is this right here. Um, I think there's only been like 3 times in the entire comic that poop has actually appeared in the comic. I don't like showing poop. It's a little gross. And I know I show farts a lot, but poop does not get shown all that much. But yeah, the joke here is that the vet is going to he's gonna say put him down, which is really dark. I think I missed a lot of people got confused by this comic in particular, in regards to that. Um, Sorry, there's a bell going off in the background, but this comic right here was a parody of Dr. Seuss, and I think the drawings actually came out really well. And I also, okay, I also made sure to go over uh, the words all rhyme. So it's called The Martin Who Is Fartin'. Said Martin to Martin the dog, I have to go potty. Let me out now, or else I'll be naughty. And outside he met a rocking chair spoofy. He spent all day laughing, 'cause 'twas really quite goofy. So did he go to the bathroom? He won't say, he's muted. I know the truth. The fact is, he tooted. Yeah, I really like the drawings here. I think that I think a lot of the drawings I didn't trace anything, but I think a walk it in my pocket was probably the biggest influence here, in having drawn that. Um, I'm trying to see if there's anything in particular that I don't see any details of other things at all. He does a little toot right there. That I didn't see anything in particular that stands out as like a little background detail that no one really noticed or anything. Um, so this is a this car right here that Martin's driving is a 1957. I think it's a Corvette. One of my favorite cars ever. Um, uh, it's a really. I think that this is a really good joke, and I like some really ambitious like angles and stuff like that. Um, and also he's writing a VW Beetle, which again actually is a pretty good drawing. I also didn't copy and paste yet again. You can see there. Um, Probably nowadays I would do that. He doesn't wear a seatbelt. He does wear a seatbelt. He gets strapped in nowadays, but he doesn't wear a seatbelt. I think I just didn't want to have to add the seatbelt after the fact that I drew it. And I was like, oh wait, I didn't give him a seatbelt. I better address that situation. Um, so yeah. Um, so this is a weird one. I think that it didn't really come off quite as well as I did. I want to do something else like this, but supposed to be like a classic comic. It's probably one of the very first like really meta comics. Um, uh, where he says asbestos because the if you watch old cartoons, um, you're under arrest for making a reference no one will get. Nuts. Sorry, kids. Actually, this is the first time Martin ever said nuts. I thought the first time he said it was a little while later, but that's his catchphrase. He says nuts. Um, there's not really a reason why he says that. I just thought it'd be a fun thing for him to say. He usually says, "Aw, nuts." It's just fun, but yeah, they used to make curtains out of asbestos, or they said asbestos on. I don't really fully understand the reference, but uh, yeah, it's a you probably have been able to like read the comic while I've been talking. It's not a very good comic. I don't think so. Again, early days. Um, if I were to do this, I wouldn't have nearly as much words as I did before, as I did here. Um, ooh, Ask Martin. Now this was a thing where I never really had many people like give me like questions and stuff to ask him, but in this he just basically would answer like fan mail and stuff like that. But first he says, "Tonight I'll be answering your questions from around the world," and then he gets a letter. It says, "Dear Martin, have you ever found about your Uncle Jack's death?" Um, that was really sad. A concerned fan. Well, and again, the joke is that Martin is illiterate and he can't read the sign. He can't read the letter, I should say, not the sign. Um, uh, I did. This is a pretty easy um, one to read really quick. One of the things early on that I don't really like allude to it all that often, but I kind of wanted to make Martin's because he could be if Martin the real life dog wanted to be gay, he could be, and this is kind of like making you think think maybe he is, but uh obviously it winds up being a little bit different than that. Uh this character does come back. When he does come back, I'll be sure to point it out. There is a nice background detail with this guy right here. He's surfing, and then he crashes, and then you see him get out of the water right there. I don't really do little neat background details like that very often anymore. Um, there is this little thing right here. I don't really know what that's supposed to be. Maybe like head. Oh no, that's supposed to be his collar. He took his collar off. Ah, I see. Even though he doesn't wear his collar, or I guess he does wear. He didn't wear his collar here. He didn't wear a collar here. Little attention to detail, I guess. But Martin does have an obsession with keys. So yeah, I will stop with this comic right here. I have been recording this for a little bit of time. This is I guess I'll leave it on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Martin's owner says "Holy crudlings," which is his seldom used catchphrase. Um, uh, yeah, still doesn't have that. Martin's owner still doesn't have that ear thing. Why is the bell going off again? Didn't it just? Oh, whatever. But this drawing of Martin right here is a very good reaction image um, that I do very much enjoy. So there you go. This was the first. I think this is actually like the first. Oh no, it's a little before like the first month, but the first close to a month. I don't want to like stop in the middle of a storyline, but this isn't quite a storyline, so it does leave you. This is actually because I did actually two versions of this. So this is actually where it was originally called Back to the Poocher. I wound up changing it, and I will sneak forward just a little bit. Oh, what? Wait, Bark to the Future is what it actually wound up being called. Um, so uh, so yeah, I'll wrap back around to this because this is an early version of this. These early ones are like all out of order. I wish they were in like a better order, but after a certain point, like they'll all be in like a regular order. And the fact that some of them don't have dates on it, and some of them have like different dates on it because I kept swapping around the order early on, this makes it more difficult to do that. So I hope you like this first episode of this idea. Please let me know what you thought of this sort of retrospective look at Martin. And Martin over here, the real dog, is kind of tired.